Welcome to the Waiting Warriors podcast. As loved ones of first responders and military personnel, we often face life situations and challenges that many others don't experience. And while each of us and our experiences are unique, together we can learn from one another and become stronger in this journey of life. Now let's step out of mediocrity. It's time to thrive. Hi, Waiting Warriors. Welcome to another episode of the show. I'm super excited because I feel like I'm sharing one of my friends with you today. I have Mallory. Oh, Mallory, I forgot to ask you. Do you want me to say your last name or just go by Mallory?
Just Mallory's fine.
Okay, that's what I thought. Most people are that way. Okay. Mallory is an Army wife of 11 years, and her husband is an active duty officer. She has a master's degree in psychology with a specialization in marriage and family therapy, but she's currently a stay-at-home mom to 3 kids. She's got a 5, 3, and 1-year-old, which is fun. I feel like we're like in the same section of motherhood together. It's basically the madness, but like the most beautiful
chaos.
Yeah. Yes. The most beautiful chaos. So I brought Mallory on though, because not only is she a military wife, obviously she's very intelligent and educated, but guys, she has the most incredible, what I am calling the DITY resume. It is the most amazing DITY resume I have ever seen. So why don't
it's kind of unbelievable.
Yeah, why don't you tell us about that? Man. What is your DITY resume?
Oh my goodness. So we've been married for 11 years. You said that. And in that 11 years, we have PCSed 9 times, and we have lived in 11 homes, and all of those moves have been full DITY moves. So 9 states, we did 2 local moves on top of that. So not only have we moved a lot, but it's of course the most inconvenient times, right? So I've moved, super pregnant, like 30, I've done a DITY when I was 33, 34 weeks pregnant, newly pregnant, twice with infants, with toddlers and infants, my husband not there, and just like showing up, the week of.
Yeah.
So it's been pretty, it's a lot. I feel like I've hit a lot of the, stages of life when we moved. It's always
and for those of you,
it's always an inconvenient time, but it's worked out. But we've done the full DITYs with each one. So
yeah. And for those of you who don't know, a DITY move is a do-it-yourself. Instead of like you typically hear about people moving, and in the military will hire movers and pack up your house and all that kind of stuff. DITY move is you're doing everything yourself. So that makes it all the more of a roller coaster, you could say.
Right.
So you've done 9, but you've done 11 houses in 11 years. Is there a Guinness Book World Record that we need to sign you up for?
That is a great question. I do not know. But I feel like I would be I'd be in competition for that.
Yeah. Especially in the military, because what I think is incredible about your story is I've heard of people who've had a move when they're pregnant. I've heard of people having a move with their husband gone, or even just like multiple. But I feel like you have had experience with almost every single different like hardship that people describe of what could make a PCS kind of like the ultimate hard challenge for them. You've had like every single one.
Several of those, yes.
I don't know if there's one that you haven't had. And but now I think it's awesome because now you're on social media and you're online and you're trying to share what you've learned, because my assumption is it hasn't been like a super smooth journey. I don't think. No. I'm assuming your first move, you weren't just like, well, guys, I got this. I'm all super organized, and
absolutely
this is going to be huge breeze.
It was awful.
So how has that progressed? Like, what was that first move for you like, and I mean, now you're on number 11. So what's the progression?
Right.
What has the progression look like there?
So it went from I really didn't know what I was doing. A lot of it I left up to my husband, so he like shows up with the wrong size truck. I'm just new army spouse, just going with the flow. I don't know what to expect. But with each move, I've learned what to do, what not to do. I've made some very, mistakes, and I made it harder for myself. And so with each one, it's gotten easier. This last one was probably my easiest one. One, because I wasn't pregnant or postpartum. That's for like 6 years straight. That's what I was. And it's just gotten easier. And my goal and my hope is just to help military families, help it be a little less overwhelming for them by saying, this is what I've done. And this is what I did, and it didn't work out. And this is what has worked. And just providing those resources and those tips to hopefully make it smoother.
Okay, so you're creating all these resources. What has been the hardest thing for you? Has it just been like the sheer work of moving multiple times and packing up your house? Like, that is extremely energy. That's a ton of let me try that again. That is a ton amount of pure energy output. But, or has it been more so the emotional side of it, of restarting 9 times, of going through that physical exhaustion and then having to make friends again? And just for you, what has been the more difficult part?
I think it just depends. So I feel like there's both of those things with every PCS, with every DITY move. But they're all different. They've all had different challenges in that, the emotional and the work. I feel like the work actually has gotten easier. I know what I'm doing. It's routine now. I have experience. I feel like I'm very organized. So that part gets a little bit easier, especially as my kids are getting a little bit older. But the emotions are still the same. They're still just as hard. I feel like that doesn't get any easier, saying goodbye to friends and also starting over. And as the kids get older, it's harder emotionally for them too. So when they're younger, it's easier physically, or it's harder physically, right? Because I'm chasing around toddlers, I'm up at late at night feeding babies. Mm-hmm. But emotionally, it's getting harder for our family as they're getting older. So, but it just depends. It depends on the situation and the move.
Okay. Where have you seen the most growth?
I've seen growth of myself in all areas of my life. I feel like I've just become a stronger person. My marriage has strengthened. I've gained so much more confidence. I mean, you really don't know what you're capable of until you do it, until you're kind of forced into that situation. I become more resilient. I've grown in all my, relationships in general, as a friend even. So I've seen a lot of growth. I don't think I am who I was, when I first joined the Army. I didn't know what to expect, and in a good way. I've just progressed, and I've grown a lot.
Do you feel like there was ever a point in the last 11 years where you were like fighting the growth, or looking back, do you know what I mean? Like fighting the growth, or
right. Like I just didn't want to do it anymore. I'm over it type thing.
Yeah.
I think honestly, I probably hit that every time still. I really do. We've had some very crazy moves, just last minute moves to places that I didn't necessarily want to go to. But I feel like the more that we've done it, the more I realize, okay, don't fight it, because it's going to work out. It's kind of something I have to talk myself into to kind of be intentional about. But I still sometimes I get tired of it. I mean, I know we're moving again. We're PCSing next year too. And that's hard for me.
And you just moved, right?
And we just moved. We're already talking about the next one. So sometimes I'm just like, I'm over it. Sometimes, but at the same time, it's something that I've learned to enjoy and see opportunity in. Mm-hmm. So
have there been times
I still fight against it sometimes.
Yeah. Do you feel like it's easy to see the joy in it, or is that something you kind of have to, and the enjoyment in it, or is that something you kind of have to either work for or like set yourself up to be able to see?
Oh, that's a great question. I think that it is easy now for me to see the joy in it and the opportunity in it, only because, again, of my past experiences with it. I'm able to just reflect on that and acknowledge, the provision over our family and the opportunities we've been given, and that gets me excited about doing it again. But I feel like it's something intentional. It's something that I have to remind myself of, every time I hear, oh, we're going to PCS, or when my husband calls me out of the blue and says, hey, we're PCSing in 4 weeks, automatically I'm not just like, yes, that's great, let's go. Right. So, but I do get there, and it's been easier for me to get there because I've seen the cool experiences and opportunities that we've been given at every place, and I'm expectant of that in the next place. So
just that positive attitude, positive perspective.
Right.
This helps it all round out. Okay. So I have 2 questions. And
yes.
I think I'll ask one first. So you mentioned with your relationships with friends, and I know a ton of military spouses or just people who move in general, that's like their biggest fear, especially for military spouses, is just like, you're going to move somewhere and then you're going to move again in a few years. But then also, like, the friends you make are going to move. They might not move when you move. They're going to move in 6 months or a year. Like, it's not like you necessarily have 2 to 3 years with your friends. You have maybe just 6 months. How have you been able to cope with that, with the friendships constantly flowing?
Oh, well, see, I feel like that's one of the hardest parts about PCSing so much. But I cope with it because everywhere we've gone, I have found community. And I guess even though it's hard to say goodbye, I know that I can find community in the next place too. And then also, I think it's really cool that I have friends all over that have walked through so many seasons of life with me. It's almost, I see that as something good, right? That I have made all these connections, that I have all these friends. And then I have the opportunity to, see them again, possibly, or stay in touch. So I think that's how it helps me cope, is that I just remind myself, if I found it, my community at this place, I will find it at another place. And also, the Army is a small world. So sometimes you get to reconnect too.
Yeah, that is true. You'll probably, especially with how often you're moving, it is.
Right. Yes. And I mean, it's also, it's kind of to the point where I haven't been somewhere long enough. I have built strong connections and friendships, but a year you can only go so far. So I think that, right. So it does make it a little bit easier for me, because I get close, but the roots haven't fully planted. So it's a little bit easier for me to move around. Now, if you ask me that after I stay somewhere for 3 years, I'm sure that is much harder to cope and to leave and to start over again. So I feel like that's where it benefits me, is that I am just kind of go, go, go. I haven't really had the chance to stay put for a long time with those friendships.
Do you feel like you're a better friend because you've had to start over?
I hope I hope my friends would say that. I think so. I think that I feel like I'm the new person every year. I start over almost every year. We've PCSed 6 times in 6 years, and we are going to do it again. So I'm constantly the new person. And I feel like because of that, it makes me more aware of when I'm more established in a group, makes me more aware of those who aren't, because I know how that feels. I feel like that feeling's still fresh to me, being the new person, wanting to be involved, wanting to be included, looking for those opportunities. And I feel like when you're comfortable and you've been somewhere for a while and you found your tribe, you kind of forget that. So I feel like moving around so much and starting over so much just makes me more sensitive and more aware to those people around me. I really learned how something that I think about all the time is, we talk so much about, finding your tribe and people. This is how you do it. You need to put yourself out there, things like that. But I've just learned in PCSing so much that it's so important. It's equally as important that we invite others into ours. Because we've all
Mm-hmm.
been there. We all know how it feels, but again, we forget. So it's the importance of inviting others into our tribe. So I feel like that has made me a better friend, just being more aware of that.
Yeah. So not only like do you need to move somewhere and you need to find your tribe, but you need to keep your tribe open, that kind of a
Right.
thing. I
Right.
like that. I like that a lot. So there's a lot of inclusion, and
Right.
I feel like as a spouse, you have to just like you have to keep your heart open. You have to keep your heart open to the opportunities that are going to come by, but you also have to keep your heart
Yes.
open to the people, because once you close that off, I think you're selling yourself so short because
Mm-hmm.
you're not seeing the opportunity that
Right.
is available. Like we've been here a year, almost a year this month, and just like in thinking about your interview and stuff, like it's funny because we've been here a year and I've just started being pretty good friends with a girl and we're working out every day, and she's moving in like 2 months. And
No.
I was I was thinking about it though, but like we both have had babies in the last few months. So like now we're working out, as opposed to when we were ginormously pregnant and stuff. But I was just thinking about it like, because I had that fleeting thought, like, well, should I even like bother, But I caught myself thinking, like, should I even be trying this? Should I even be building this relationship? Should I even like be spending that emotional energy or capital?
Mm-hmm.
And then the other day we went on a run, and afterwards we had like the most amazing conversation. It was just an awesome conversation for me to have, especially while my husband was gone. Like I don't have like good adult conversations, where that just
Right.
like make you think and open your mind to things. And I realized like if I had closed myself off, and if I had like in our interactions, I met her at church, if I had gone to church and I knew that she was leaving, like I've known for a while, I could have just said, no, I'm not going to waste my time. But then I would have missed out on so much. I mean, even just that conversation would have been
Mm-hmm.
sad. But then just the friendship, like friendship can last, especially like over online now. Um,
Yes. And we need friends in our seasons in all these seasons of life. I mean, just because it's a short time period doesn't mean you can't get really close. And then just because you move, sometimes it's just for a season. You needed them for that season, and it's worth it every time.
yeah,
I think it is.
I agree. And the other thing I was thinking about too, because as I was thinking of this, is like, wow, that, I could have not had that. But then I was thinking about, okay, if I was you and I had
Mm-hmm.
that attitude, then that means you would
Yes.
go the last 11 years without any like
I would
friends.
have no friends.
And what a crappy.
Right. And honestly,
life.
sometimes I don't tell people right away because they do shut me off quickly. And I think that's why also I like to think more about like, okay, and being inclusive when it's me who has the friends, thinking about all the other people, the people who don't, and being
Yeah.
inclusive with
Yeah.
them, because I know how that feels. I know how that feels.
Yeah, I agree. It's just like, I think military life shows us really how short life can be,
Mm-hmm.
and that there's no time. Like, and why wait? Why not have the experience? Why not make that friend? Why not be the kind person? Like, I don't know. Like, do you really
No, I
not have,
agree.
you know,
I agree.
I was just thinking about you. I was just like, if I had that thought and I was Mallory,
Oh,
life would really, really suck. It just would not be fun. Okay, the other question I wanted to ask you is what has been, I don't want to say the worst move. We'll say what
the
has
most
been
challenging.
challenging or interesting move. Just
Oh
to
my
give
goodness.
a little
I
bit of a
have,
taste.
oh man, I have so many. I have so many crazy moves, funny moves. But if we're going for most, challenging, um, I laugh only because there was one where my husband and I had Lasik surgery. We did a DITY the next day and unloaded in a snowstorm at 2 a.m. So like I have the most ridiculous stories like that.
Are you allowed to do that?
I don't know. I don't know what we were thinking. That was like our second one. We hopped in a U-Haul. We both were driving. We had LASIK surgery the day before, both of us. It's snowing. We get to Colorado. It is a snowstorm. We don't even have the proper clothing, and we're out there unloading our truck at 2 a.m. in the morning. Anyways, so that's why I laugh when you say the most interesting, because that's interesting. But the one that
I'm sorry. I'm like,
oh man,
I'm just picturing like two blind, like half blind people, short,
with those glasses.
and, yeah, and like in snowy Colorado.
That's what I'm saying. We've learned.
Like,
I have learned so much throughout my DITY moves. I have learned a lot. You do not do it after LASIK surgery. There you go.
That's
anyways.
Quote. On Instagram, you know how I do like a picture and a quote? That's going to be the quote.
That's going to be the quote. Tip of the day. This is the tip of the day.
Yeah. You should do a whole highlight on your Instagram of
oh man,
how not to do that. Okay, sorry.
Okay, but the most interesting, the one that I feel like has just shaped my view of PCSing and my perspective, and that I reflect on quite a bit, was, of course I have to count now, it was, what was it, 3-4 PCSs ago. We were at Fort Benning, and we had just gotten there for about 10 months. And my husband was gone, and out of the blue one day he calls me. He was gone, and he was like, "How do you feel about moving to Fort Lewis?" And I was like, "What is I didn't really know how to respond." Anyways, he was offered his dream job, right? So something that I have known for 16 years. Like, this is his dream job. So of course I was like, "Let's do it." Mm-hmm. He was gone. I packed up the house, so we had about 4 weeks to get there. So it was like this big whirlwind. I really didn't have time to think about it. When we got the official orders, the week after he had called me, we also found out we were pregnant with our third child too. So not only am I preparing for this out of the blue PCS, but I'm pregnant, and he was to deploy pretty much immediately when we got there. So all of this is going, I felt like I had so much adrenaline. I was just like, let's get there. So we finally got there. We did the full DITY, and after he left, he deployed about 2-3 weeks after we got there. It was a shock. It was, for lack of a better word, it was kind of traumatic, because my life just completely flipped upside down in 4 weeks, like all of this had happened. And that was the DITY that he wasn't around for. So he showed up maybe a few days before we packed the truck. So I was pregnant with 2 toddlers, and he shows up, and then we drive to Washington. But that was just the most interesting. And that was probably the hardest. I was very excited about the opportunity, but man, all the emotions and hormones, it was just, that was probably just the one that I've just kind of reflect on a lot, because not only was it the most challenging and the hardest, it was honestly one of the best. Like, I would do it all over again. It was one of the most beautiful years of my life. Like, I'm so grateful for that, even though in the moment it just seemed like, what is happening, so.
Yeah. That sounds so crazy. So where have you lived? Like, it sounds like you've lived, if I've understood your story, you've lived from like coast to coast.
Pretty much.
Can you list all of them? And you actually had right now.
I had to write them down, because I feel like I always miss them or forget about them.
You gotta count.
I have to count. So we were in Fort Monmouth, New Jersey. It's not there anymore, but we were there. And then Fort Sill was just we PCS Fort Sill about 8 months after Jersey. And then from Fort Sill, we went to Fort Carson. And then we did one local move while we were at Fort Carson. We moved on post. And then Fort Sill again for 6 months. And then we went to Fort Bliss and did a local move at Fort Bliss. Then Fort Benning, Fort Lewis, Maxwell Air Force Base, and now we're at Fort Leavenworth, and we're going to be moving again next year.
Do you know where you're going? Or,
I have no idea.
But you just know you're leaving.
We just know, yes, we know that we're going to go. We should know actually in a few weeks, or we'll see.
Yeah. Quote unquote, we'll put a big, big giant quote.
Right. Some of our PCSs have been expected, and then others have not. So it's just, I'm very thankful when I know it's coming. I might not know where, but I know it's coming. I can plan better and prepare better. So
that is so crazy. But like, it's crazy, but I mean, we have done that in our much smaller scale. But I just have to commend you. I've got to commend all those other military spouses out there just for your willingness to jump on the boat, I guess. Because I know, like, you sound a lot like me, where it's like, well, it's for career progression, or it's what he wants. Like, it's his dream. Of course I'm going to do it. But then you still run into all the hard, and it just sounds like it's that love for your spouse and supporting him that like gets you through freaking 11 moves.
Yes, it really is. Yes.
It's so crazy.
And I feel called to serve too. Like I feel like it's a calling for our whole family. So in that way. But.
Which is, we could do we'll just go ahead and do a whole other episode about that.
Yes, right. That's a big topic.
Yeah. So before I ask the final question of what your key to thriving is, I know and love all of your resources online, but I want to share those with everybody. So can you tell people what you have, where they can find you, and tell them all the things?
Yes. So my Instagram account is Mamas on the Move. And then I also have a blog that is called DITY Mama, and it's attached to it. Yeah. So within both of those, I have resources that I've created. So, I talk a lot about my experiences and give tips and things like that, but I also do step-by-step of how to DITY. So planning your DITY move, like why would you want to do, like why doing a DITY is beneficial? What is the pros? Yeah. How to pack, things like that. But I also created resources. So I have a 4-week and an 8-week packing goal checklist so that, it just helps you organize. That's one of my big DITY tips is to set attainable goals, small goals, right? When you look at a DITY, you're so overwhelmed, like, oh my gosh, where do I start? So I created those with different timelines just to kind of break it down, just to give a guide of this is how I do it. This is how it works for me. And then, hopefully people can find that helpful too. I have a DITY binder, and that is a checklist and to-do list. And that is more so a checklist of, your important documents, things like that you need. I know that there's a lot of those out there, like a PCS, form checklist, but, a lot of them don't have the DITY information in there, like remembering, your DITY paperwork and, your moving truck and trailer reservations and things, and your mover reservations, things like that. But I also have a to-do list in there in order from where you should start to, how you finish a DITY, and also a budget, notes, things like that. I have a kids PCS packet as well. And that's like one of my favorite ones because I feel like it's really helped my kids, and I've done it with them. And there's a lot of those out there too, but this one is more geared toward preparing your children and including them in the moving process, giving them a little bit of control and closure, and things. And so you're opening like lines of communication and things like that. So there's fun coloring sheets and talking about where you're going, but it's more than just that. So
yeah, guys, I will have to say I have never come across any moving resource that is as detailed, and the only word I can come up with is like not fluffy. Like it's very realistic. It's very just not fluffy. I guess I don't know how to describe some of, and that's not to like that's not to dig on any of the other guides. I think they have been helpful, but like this is very detailed and like exactly what you need to know. Like I feel like
Well, thank you.
we've never done a DITY move in the military. We've done like switching our own houses and stuff, but even just like our military move, couldn't even fathom doing a DITY. Like that didn't sound appealing at all.
That's what most people say.
Yeah, but now I'm like actually intrigued, and I feel like I could do it because you have all these resources. But then even guys, just on her Instagram, she shows you exactly how to properly not package, like wrap up a chair and like different kinds of chairs.
Yes, all my highlights are helping you pack like a pro, every item in your house.
It's seriously like you can never delete your account because the next time I move, I'm going to be going on it and like I already know I'm going to have it.
Yes.
Like, okay, today's to do is this. And then on her highlights, it's right here. So give me 5 minutes and I'm going to watch exactly how to do it. And then you just take out all the guesswork. And it's like 11 years of experience. It's brilliant. Yeah. Guys, it's so helpful.
Thank you.
I already have
I hope it is. I hope it is.
I think it's awesome. So, guys, go check out those and I'll put out all the links. But last final question is, and it's my favorite part of every episode, what is your key to thriving that you want to share with your fellow waiting warriors?
Well, we already kind of touched on it, but I would definitely say perspective. That is my key to thriving. So they're just real and there are hard challenges that come with PCSing. And as military families, we don't have a lot of control over where we go, when we go. And it's so easy for us to focus on those negatives and the disappointments. And I've definitely been there. I haven't always, been positive about it. But perspective is everything. I've just learned to shift my attitude and focus on, what can I get out of this? What can I learn? How can I grow with each of these opportunities? And then being intentional with my perspective has just changed my experiences at each duty station in a good way. And I feel like that's where you find purpose in the PCS. And then as a parent, not only is it, I feel like it helps me personally, my perspective when it comes to PCSing, but as a parent and as a spouse, I feel like we have so much influence over our home and our family, and kids will adopt that negativity, but they'll also adopt our positivity. So they'll kind of adopt our perspective, and they look to us. I always ask myself, do I want peace in my home or do I want conflict? Do I want negativity or do I want, hope for the future? So I feel like not only does our perspective help us thrive, but also it encourages our kids and those around us too.
Yeah. Does that make sense? Like we can't expect our kids to be happy and flexible and resilient or anything if we aren't creating an atmosphere with our attitudes for them. I like that. That makes a lot of sense.
And like you're more likely to thrive. Your family, like when your family's thriving, you're thriving. I feel like they go hand in hand. So perspective just has been very important.
Yeah, and
very helpful to me.
There's that like quote people always say, like happy wife, happy life, or what I really like is happy spouse, happy house. But it's even just like with the kids, like happy family, happy family. Like,
right? It's true.
Everybody feeds off of each other. And like when you really think about it, family is just this organism and there's a whole bunch of different parts. And if one part isn't working, then the whole thing isn't functioning as well as it can be. So I like that. Your kids feed off of you and healthy perspective is important.
Yes.
Agreed. Well, guys, I love Mallory and I hope you guys will go check out Mallory and you will love her too, because not only has she created resources that I think are super helpful, but she is just an awesome person to get to know and follow. So go do that.
Well, I've loved getting to know you and following you too. Thank you.
It's been fun. Okay, guys, you waiting warriors, if you are heading out for a move and that's why you're listening to this podcast, good luck. go check out those resources. If you are not and you're like, yay, it's not my turn, enjoy this time of your life where you watch the moving trucks not go to your house, because I feel like moving trucks are constantly going into our neighborhoods.
Yeah.
So you guys have a good week, and yeah, stay positive. Bye, guys. Hi guys, I hope you're enjoying this podcast. I know I've been learning so much, so please share with any friends and family you know, whether you know someone who is a waiting warrior, or if you just think one episode can shed some light to friends and family about what you're going through. Share. And always remember, we're stronger together, and here we can thrive. Until next time, have an awesome day.